Hello and welcome to Hermetic Link. This is a special episode. I am Jorius,
And I'm Silas.
and this is going to be the Christmas edition.
Yes,
We're gonna
we've got our. Oh, sorry.
we're gonna talk about Christmas, Santa, faith, and what it means to be spirited, especially in a world that makes it difficult to be festive or maintain your faith. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, mine was stupid. Yeah, that's the more important point. But we've been in a good mood these past few days. We've got our Santa hats on.
Oh yes.
We are ready to celebrate the end of the year, along with the warm tidings to a new year, hopefully.
Have you thought of what any of your New Year's resolutions might be?
Um, I don't really do that.
Yeah, you don't do those?
Because
Me
I
neither.
know I know the trappings. I know the trappings. Like people never hold. There's that thing where it's like, if you want to trick the devil, never never let him know, or something like that. Basically, like, never let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. If I want to do something, I probably shouldn't like put so much attention into not doing it or doing it.
That is an optimal strategy.
What about you?
Um, I'm like you.
So it's a ritual that always fails. Like, who do you know that holds their uh, New Year's resolutions all year because they're kind of frantic about messing it up.
And sometimes those resolutions, along with a lot of other things, can breed misery. And you know how misery loves company. Everybody knows that saying.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, it does kind of become a negative loop where like everybody's breaking their New Year's resolutions. Yeah, that is a little bit weird. Everybody tells each other their New Year's resolutions, and then once one person breaks it, everybody's like, "Oh well, everybody in my squad is." So, you know, let's make a deal with myself here and break those. But maybe that would be interesting for a New Year's episode. But
Maybe,
you
right?
mentioned something there to start us out. You mentioned something to start us out.
Well, just to like segue into what we were just now saying,
Mm,
losing faith in humanity, and this can be through like, something like legitimate tragedy in your
uh-huh.
life, because it's kind of unrealistic to be constantly optimistic.
That does get me thinking. The beginning of the holidays. I think that's the draw of it, and I think it's less true now than it was before. That the holidays tend to be an attempt where, like, the only attempt that we make all year for like roughly a month out of 12 months, where for we can allot for at least some time to kind of collectively stir up an atmosphere of festivity, generosity, hopefulness, and like bring together all of the best qualities of humanity so that, we can adorn the streets very beautifully, so we can, provide for those who we know are maybe going to be less fortunate during the holiday season, or we can improve our lives during that time, and like try to get into contact with people that we haven't had contact with all year, because truth is nobody makes the same effort throughout the rest of the year as they do towards Christmas. At least in my experience, that seems to be the time where everybody does it. But the world makes it pretty difficult on during all periods except for the holidays. But even then, I don't think I'd even say that it's less difficult during the holidays, because a lot of people, um, they'll feel a sort of stress and newfound responsibility, especially as they grow up. They'll find that, well, now they've got to make the plans and the travel arrangements to get everybody in one place, and they've got to buy the Christmas presents for their kids. They've got to like give Christmas presents for like everybody they know, and like, man, you got to do that when maybe you were struggling through the rest of the year.
Yeah, and there's a lot of struggling just in general when it comes to trying to act, you know, jolly and energetic.
Hmm.
Say if like you have a child and you're trying to provide a traditional Christmas experience
Right.
and fuel the belief of Santa Claus into your child just to give them something to hope for, to be happy around the holiday season. And yeah,
Mm.
what you were saying before, uh, there definitely is a social acceptance to being happier or like displaying your happiness even in like our decor, like how we lighten everything up, as you said, in like the public, how we like
Yeah.
light the streets with the Christmas lights and stuff. But at the same time, it does seem to leave some people with the desire to be in that holiday spirit all year round, you know?
Ah, yes. This is one of our points. Yeah, this is the only time where we like give ourselves to really create like what in reality we have been like yearning for all year. Like it's not like people want Christmas to end, they wish that it could
Right.
stay that way. And because right when the new year starts, it's back to business as usual. Everybody separates again. Everybody's back to their drab lives.
Yeah, and there's always a degree of disillusionment that comes with, taking down the Christmas tree or taking down all the decorations and stuff and, putting them away for next year.
Yeah, isn't there? Isn't there? Well, you said disillusionment there. Um, well, I think it's easy to forget what it was like. I don't think that we have any children watching Hermetic Link. I've looked at the stats, so I don't think we're gonna be like
I've checked the numbers. I've ran by all of the accounts who've
everybody's
watched our videos, and every one of you, you're all above the age of 18.
yeah, pretty much. Unless there's like one kid who happens to stumble across this video. I hope not. Um, so that we don't accidentally make him cross the Christmas abyss, the holiday abyss. Um, but mostly everybody that listens to us is of age enough to know and old enough to maybe have forgotten what it was like to actually grow up and slowly um, be disillusioned by the holiday spirit, especially when you figured out that Santa was also an illusion that was elaborately made.
Yeah, and if you have a child and you're, as I said, trying to give that kid a good traditional like Christmas experience, at some point you're going to have that conversation with your child that Santa isn't real, and there's going to be again a disillusionment or some kind of unmasking
Mm,
conversation that goes on between the parent and the child.
yeah. So children, all children go through this, and children's struggle with belief in Santa greatly mirrors an adult's belief in divinity and God. So we all like just like it's the same emotion as what you felt when you were a child, and we might be prone to feeling disappointed when our lives are now made disenchanted. This truly is the first struggle of faith for a lot of kids, um, and it's their first confrontation with intense disillusionment.
Yeah, your parents if they if they did play that role of Santa, they were attributing all of those actions to Santa, at least in the moment. So if there
Mm.
was a time where you believed in Santa and the tree, I mean, yeah, there were presents under the tree and everything, and you thought that was Santa doing that, you thought there was some kind of mystical element at work.
Oh yeah, I missed that for a long time.
And parents will use other stories like the Sandman, the Tooth Fairy,
Easter
um,
Bunny.
to explain away, yeah, to Easter Bunny to explain away certain behaviors and traditions.
Hmm. They also here's another parallel. They do hang the idea of Santa over a child's head to sort of control their behavior. You know, you'll get a lump of coal for Christmas. I don't think anybody says that, but like,
Oh
you
yeah, are
know,
you naughty
Santa's
or nice? You see, he's gonna check
yeah,
his
yeah.
list. Or checking it
Santa's got
twice.
a naughty. Yeah, right, right. It's like uh I think we should harken back to how we felt when we actually did believe that there was a naughty and nice list. I think that's definitely worth examination. So, well, part of the crisis for people that I think that they don't get over immediately, even like when they enter their adulthood, is um, the unmasking of the Christmas spirit. It's easy to have lost the point of the holidays, especially in I think this would be relevant in our time where it's very easy to become isolated in a
Yeah.
downward spiral.
Absurdity tends to rule, especially in atomized societies, it seems.
It does. But you know what? That opens you up for the possibility of the idea that, well, maybe there is a point to all this. So regular people end up becoming the agents of Santa or of holiday cheer.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
those agents of Santa or holiday cheer are just your parents. Exactly. Like just regular people that fill the role of a mythical figure, attributing their actions to it. And that's supposed to fuel that faith in Santa, at least, for the time.
Yeah, it becomes your job to make sure that everybody else is. You start realizing that there was nothing like no man was coming out from the sky to like bring Christmas cheer. Nothing is literally being dropped down your chimney, or like he's some. Most of you don't have chimneys.
Yeah.
Maybe he's coming through a window.
I
You
know I
know,
didn't have a chimney. I didn't know where he was coming from.
yeah. I always thought he came through the window or something. I thought no, I thought he came through the front door. He just broke in. I'm like,
Yeah, I just thought he like
how does he
just
open
sneaked
that?
in somehow.
Yeah. So it's like you start realizing that it wasn't some other figure that was literally dropping presents. It was your parents doing the absolute best that they could for you. Um, and now it becomes your job, whether you figure this out like in your day to day in society, or if you figure it out when you have children and it really is relevant to you, to make sure that this one time that we have left where it's very acceptable to celebrate life on a very large scale remains that way. And I don't think that it's a secret that that kind of celebration is starting to wane severely. Um, well, here's another point that I got to. Um, let's take a trip down memory road to when we were children. I think we all had a very similar stream of consciousness when it came to the holidays and Christmas, especially. But you know, what when I was a child, I remember like I was not the only one, but there was a lingering thought in our minds, like, well, if Santa is real, why do the poor children get proportionally poorer gifts? You know, the rich kids will of course, get a bigger Christmas haul than you do, even if you knew that they like were not as nice that year. And then that becomes a very shattering thing after, or maybe it's very hopeful, but maybe you realize that that question was answered when you realize that even with very much smaller means, assuming that your parents didn't have those kinds of resources, um, at least this was my experience. Like it's a little bit harrowing to find out that, well, if it wasn't Santa that gave us like loads of gifts, that was our parents who were taking up that mantle, giving the credit to Santa, and then um, somehow making it work. Like they really were. You end up finding out that in most cases they really were trying to do the best with what they had, and oftentimes they ended up giving pretty much everything that they had to spare for your Christmas gifts as a child. Maybe that made you feel a little bit guilty too, but it shouldn't, because like that becomes your job later.
You know, I remember when I was a kid, uh, finding out that Santa wasn't real. I had kind of like you. I had my own suspicions, and I think at some point when you're a kid and you reach a certain point of development, you're probably going to ask certain, logical questions about Santa. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen this flying guy in the sky with this like sled and reindeer and stuff. But I had walked to my mom's room and there was like a half wrapped present. It's like a Nerf gun or something. And it was, I did feel the like harrowing, like shattering kind of moment. But for me, I also had like a confirmation like in my head that just kind of clicked. And at some
No,
point, I had developed a like gratitude for my parents because I had realized that they were going out of their way to like give me these experiences, and it wasn't just some like mythical like amorphous like being or whatever.
right. Makes you wonder. Like, yeah, I gained that appreciation because I realized later, for
Yeah, and that wasn't all in like one go or anything. That was like over time.
yeah, and yeah, I remember one Christmas very fondly, and then as I grow older, I start to think this more. For people who are struggling to raise myself and my siblings, well, all year I remember that there were talks of like, we may not have this. We gotta like cut corners somehow, or like water would get shut off, or heat would get shut off. But somehow at the end of the year, like it makes me wonder, like, how the hell did you manage to get a PlayStation 2, an Optimus Prime, and a bunch of like Bionicle toys for me, like, and similar gifts for all of my siblings as well. You don't want to disappoint them. Um, yeah, I feel like some of that pressure is undue on parents. I feel like maybe we expect too much from them. It really is just a way to sell more shit. Um, but that's a little bit besides the point, you know. Um, whether or not families and children should be grateful for what they have and what they can achieve. Um, yeah, I guess when you let's take another trip. I don't know if you guys ever remembered the first kid in maybe your elementary school class who figured out that Santa isn't real, and it either had to become like their dirty little secret, or like if the conversation came up with that kid, they became like the Nietzsche of that little elementary school class.
Right.
Santa is dead and we have killed him. He's not real. Everybody else is like, no, no, of course Santa's real. You're crazy. What are you talking about? And then they all come to the realization slowly. Well, every single one of them, they have to learn eventually. And he was right all along.
It does kind of earn like a really good "I told you so" moment though. Like, see, like I wasn't crazy. I was right all along. Y'all were trying to
Yeah,
gaslight me into thinking that Santa was real, even though I knew I figured it out before you guys, because I'm I'm just built different, right?
you're all brainwashed. They're just trying to control your behavior.
You're all in the Matrix. I'm the top G, all right?
That makes me wonder if the analogies that we've been giving have been sticking. Um, these are, of course, mirrorings for our own spiritual journeys throughout life. And let me clarify that we are Trismegistus for a reason. We named this Hermetic link for a reason. And that is because embedded in those beliefs, it is not it is essential to believe in a higher power. It's just that higher power ends up taking a different form, like the Christmas spirit does. More often, it has to work through people, and it can work through imperfect people. Like instead of Santa Claus, you found out it was your parents who may or may not have been perfect parents. Let's finish up with some thoughts. People tend to become secular through their experiences with religion, rather than despite. So atheism can provide a sort of rationalism. I think you worded this better than I could.
Atheism has a tendency to regress into nihilism. It doesn't always do that, but
Mhm.
some people are satisfied being atheists, and that's fine. And there's also an alternative, and that's having some sort of faith, even if it's a confused faith. So you can devote yourself and your actions to a larger tradition, as we've been talking about just now.
Yeah, and when I think of a see, I don't even think of organized religion when I think of a confused faith. I think that by its nature, faith requires a sort of confusion, because in the last episode that we may or may not have posted yet, it may end up being the next episode after this. I mentioned that part of faith is admitting to yourself that you don't have the answers. You are very confused and you are traversing this world, having to find the answers. But there are ways to get those answers. By its nature, it's not a very complete thing. I think faith is a sort of ongoing act where you take one step forward and then one piece at a time. The picture that is life and the picture that is God, how to perfect yourself, starts to become clearer, but it doesn't happen immediately. Oftentimes, it can probably take our whole lives. And that to me is a way better alternative. It's confused, sure, um, but I was one of those people, by adopting a sort of nihilistic faith.
Yeah, I guess in a way you could say like we're all confused, and that's why we're
Yeah,
on the path that we're on.
but opting out of faith, it's not that people can't do it. It's just it's by its nature, when we figured out that nothing is coming to save us and nothing is coming to uphold our own traditions or our own um, positive emotions such as celebration, joyousness, nothing is doing that for us. A lot of people can't handle that. And honestly, like I couldn't stand living like that.
Sometimes it destroys you, yeah.
I think that's the regression of it. Usually, for most people, a lack of faith just turns into a sort of bridge from one faith to the next. Um,
Yeah, secularism does
So
seem to be a sort of like watershed moment from one ideology to the other. But we
yeah.
wanted to talk about one of the overwhelming elements of holiday cheer, and that's promotion of festivity on its own nature and merit. And probably the greatest example of this is the World War I Christmas truce,
Mm,
where you're being shot at, you're shooting others, you're gassing each other, uh, starving each other out, trying to push each other to extreme climates. And through all of this savagery, the soldiers from each side come out to play soccer, trade cigarettes, memories, and actually talk amongst
some of
each
them got
other,
whiskey.
overriding that overwhelming feeling of tribalism that we tend to have on our day-to-day basis. I find that to be a beautiful example of holiday cheer.
Yeah. I think the saddest part of that story for me is that their commanding officers ordered them to start shooting at each other again. They were mad that that happened,
Yeah, it
so they
was
went
a
onto the field. They're like, "Why are
bittersweet,
you not killing each other?"
bittersweet ending.
Yeah, it does make you realize though. So jolly by its own nature. Well, what was the other? Remember when I said that we start asking ourselves rational questions like, why do poor children get proportionally poor gifts? That question holds the same kind of emotion as a very faithful person that wants to believe in divinity saying, like, why do bad things happen to good people? Like, why is there
Right.
suffering in the world? And well, it's because really that's up to you. Like, it's not anything else's job to make sure that you have a good life. Like, if we're going to call this God, I suppose, God would rather see you capable of healing your own world rather than having to have it handed to you. And it's the fact that we start these world wars, and it's the fact that every moment of peace that we have, start towing the line again once a superior officer tells us to start shooting at each other. That um, that's not something that's anybody's fault but our own. But the blame is not the point. It's about, well, when you walk a path of faith, it's not about being right. In matters of faith, it's not only permissible but expected that you be wrong. Um, and many people are just horrified by that. The idea that maybe, like, did I pick the right religion? Like, am I doing this wrong? Am I thinking the wrong thing? Well, that's why I say that you need to almost sunder yourself from the foundation and build yourself from scratch. Because the true test is cultivating the self and an atmosphere, an aura of generosity, goodwill, festivity, and a joyous celebration of life. And that needs to exist by its own nature. And so, if you ever feel discouraged during the holiday season or in matters of life in general, you know that you enjoy the holiday times. Like, you know that you at least enjoy the effort. You enjoy that people come to see you. You enjoy the extra amounts of um, trouble that people go to make sure that you're okay and to make sure that you're provided for. You may be resentful of this only happening once a year because you want it to happen all year. And so, especially now, when it's more socially acceptable to do so, but we should be doing this all the time. It's not foolish to participate in jolly or gift giving or ceremony. Um, it's not foolish to gather loved ones, and it's not foolish to participate in a communal tradition that brings these qualities out of people.
Yeah, and you know what is interesting about what you're describing about this generosity, goodwill, gathering, and feeling holiday spirit? They're all crucial for the contributing to the general happiness of our time. And that's, to me, that's the end goal of what the Christmas spirit, of what being spirited is all about.
Mm. Any mystical tradition that you take part in, these are generally traits that are absolutely required. Um, you know, you can choose to be nice and with your newfound powers, but mostly what you're going to find in like textbooks directing you on how to use this energy, um, you're going to find that the characteristics that are required in order for you to succeed in these things are the qualities which need to be brought out to benefit all of humanity and all of life, including your own, starting with your own, and then to everybody else.
All right, I think that's a good place to end it. This has been Hermetic Link, wishing you
Christmas edition.
wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Happy holidays.
All the happy, all the holidays, all the happy, everything.
Don't be a contrarian, be jolly.
Be jolly.
Unless you got something to actually be sad about, in which case, yeah, go through it. Go through it. Try again next year.
All right, we appreciate you listening.
Yes, thank you for taking the time to listen to this, especially if you're listening to it on Christmas Eve, which, as of now, it is the 24th. Merry Christmas Eve and happy holidays. We appreciate you. I'm Silas.
I'm Jorius.
Thank you for tuning in to Hermetic Link.